Hey, friends. I'm super thankful for you guys to hear Self-Love Strong podcast. I'm your host, Sam Jones, and we're here with a very special guest today. We have today's guest, someone who knows all about resilience, grit, and transformation. Jessie Palacios is the host of Truck Talks with Jessie, a raw, unfiltered podcast that brings real, unscripted conversations about success, sacrifice, and the hustle behind the grind. But beyond that, Jessie has a powerful journey. I mean, he overcome life. Let's see, he is unlocking. He has a powerful journey, and he's coming in here with some foundational power of self-love. So, man, I'm just super thankful that you're here, Jessie, and that our paths have crossed.
Hey, brother, I'm super excited about it all, and I'm not even gonna lie to you. Whenever I joined the group that we're affixed with and kind of saw the idea that you do something with self-love, and I followed your channel and I saw where you're godly, and dude, everything that you do is my heart, and I loved it. So I was 100% bought in whenever you said, hey, anybody wanted to kind of entertain the idea of having some conversations. And man, whenever I tell you, it moves me in a different way because of my journey, and it's been amazing. So I've been doing a podcast very short, though, I will tell you that, and my truck talks kind of spurred out of literally waking up in the middle of the night on a random day in November of last year. And it's been amazing in the fact that the people that have been able to sit in and talk with me, Sam, it's like the aftermath is the best. And you know what I'm talking about, like the aftermath, the connection, even after the podcast, after getting in touch with people and getting to hear their story and being fruitful in their journey and being able to actually give back. It's been amazing.
Yes, 100% agree with that. It's like something about that connection. Technology, I think, has been the most amazing thing. Like, I mean, our paths are crossed digitally, which we could never probably walk in the same shoe before, but the fact that we can connect in so many ways. And I mean, it's what life's about, making connections. And I believe we all have our own stories, and there's always a lesson in that story as well. And I think that's what's so awesome, is that we can connect and learn and grow from each other.
Yeah. And
but
the beautiful part about it, and I'm going to kind of give you a little background of where I started, man. So I grew up in the inner city of Houston, and knowing where I grew up and how I ended up, man, if you don't think God has something to do with your story and your journey, if you don't think that there's a higher power pushing our life existence around and giving us some semblance of balance, giving us some center, giving us peace in our heart, then man, I'd love to speak with you, and I'd love to give that to you, because I grew up, like I said, in the inner city of Houston. I jumped into the military for 23 years. I was a doc. I was a medical guy. So I seen some of the worst things in the world whenever I was deployed that people could do to other people. And that literally broke me, man. And then I transitioned into real estate of all things, right? Went from giving people their worst news on their worst day to giving them the happiest news of, here's your keys. And that changed something inside of me, and it put like a little seed. And fast forward a few years later, almost 7 years later, Wednesday night, November 6th at 2 a.m, I literally woke up out of a dead sleep and started writing the framework for the podcast. I literally had my first guest by 8 a.m. and haven't turned back since.
Wow.
And then every day I get in my truck, and I give a message every day, and it's not scripted. It's not anything that I plan on. I literally just wake up, get out of my pajamas, brush my teeth, go sit in my truck, and I look up and I say, all right, let's do this, God. And whatever message is coming that moment, it has nothing to, like, it's a lot of times that happened the day before. So it's not like some epiphany that's happening there, but it's everyday life that gives us our lessons. And you know that.
Yeah, man, I love that. I love how you just ran with it. I think many times, we hear that inkling, and our fear or, doubt or other things hold us back from just really fully expressing ourselves. But I love how you took it and ran. You took it and ran. I hope people that are listening to this, is you story is like, hey, when I get that call, not to question it, not to doubt it, but to run with it, and you can trust it.
And that's something
That was
significant.
powerful.
And that's something very significant. Like you said, whenever you get the call, how many times have you prayed for a message, for something clear?
Yeah. I mean, I can't even count it on my fingers, right?
Okay. And how many times have you missed the message?
I can only, man, I probably missed it so many times. I didn't even know I missed it, right? You know what I mean?
Right. And whenever I sit with, people in my podcast, before we even start talking, I kind of see where their heart is. So I know, all right, I'm not going to toe tap in some things that I don't want to touch. Right. I've had people sit in my truck and we gone down a rabbit hole of hurt, despair, and they've broken down for, a good hour or two crying, and we've worked through it. And then we get back on a podcast maybe a couple weeks later, and it's a different vibe because it was something that they needed to get off their chest, and it's a moment that they needed. And whenever I say it's been a blessing more than anything, it's because whenever someone comes to you, and this, whenever someone comes to you and they're just looking for someone to listen, it's that simple, their voice to be heard. And when you give them that little bit, man, it's amazing to see how much people are hurting, or how much they need the reassurance, or how much the brokenness of what we are lately is like, it's literally reverbing to other people. And right now I'm in the process of starting my book, and I'm only a couple chapters in. And the foundational building of becoming the best version of yourself with God guiding that spirit is something phenomenal. And I'm putting it to paper, and I'm building that book out. And the foundations of it all is kind of starting with knowing where you start your faith. And for some people, that's not God, and that's okay too. Some people, it's the different versions of God, or the different versions of faith, or whatever they believe in. But knowing that there's something bigger than themselves and giving back to others, man, that seeds something deep. But for me, my God is the person that I lean into. You know what I mean?
Yeah, man. Oh, man. I really love that. I love how you were talking about, hey, knowing that your past prepared you for that future. Like, hey, man, I was from inner city Houston. You didn't let that just really define you. You realized that, hey, that past is preparing me for what I'm at now. That past is, those past challenges that years in the military, everything you've been through has led up to this moment that I'm here to serve. Not realizing that moment, like taking those situations and those challenges you've overcome as like something to shy away from, but embracing them and, hey, man, I've been there. And that's so powerful. And how you just bring people together in a truck, I mean, brother, you are doing some amazing work. And I love it. It's just exciting to hear that regardless of what you go through, that there's another side, right? There's a side, things can get better, but not that the challenge is something that I went through for it to just be my journey, but it's a journey that I can share with others and empower others with.
Mm-hmm. And, whenever I'm doing my dailies, I guess you would say, kind of giving my cup of coffee in the morning truck talks, because I'm on all the social media platforms. And I do a daily sit down in my truck, and it's just me and the camera. And whenever I'm sitting there, a lot of times I know that people are hurting. I just had a story the other day of somebody who had some turmoil in their life. And there's some people that are, dealing with some PTSD that call me, and knowing that I'm a PTSD survivor from my tour in Iraq, from some other stuff that I've done in the military. And I like to give them the what for, get back on the horse, if you will. But a lot of times, this broken feeling, this emptiness that we as human beings tend to find, and it's inevitable, I don't care who you are, you end up finding it. And it's because you don't know which way to look sometimes, that lost feeling. I've been able to hopefully redirect some heart and give somebody at least some direction and some insight, very similar to what you're saying. Like, it's amazing whenever you find your rhythm in things. It's amazing whenever you find your heart. And it kind of coming out of the military, that version of me was not the person that I am today by any means. And like you said, the journey in which we're guided,
Wow.
we don't know we're going through it, dude. We don't know the slightest. We have no idea that we're bowling with bumper rails the whole time, right? And that's a great analogy whenever you think about it, because whenever you take your kid or you take your little over to the bowling alley and you put up the rails, a lot of times they want to be independent. They want those rails down. They want to bowl like you. Well, in that moment, you realize those bumpers are there for a good reason, and that keeps you in that middle pathway of goodness sometimes. And that's a great analogy whenever I was telling my kid, of all people, I was like, hey man, life's kind of like the bowling alley sometimes. You got to have the bumpers up to keep you there. If you don't know which way you're going to go. If you land in the gutter, yeah, you'll get another chance, because that's what God does. He'll roll the dice with you again. That's how it is. But sometimes if you don't ask for that help, you don't ask for those gutters to get put up, you don't realize that all you're going to do is throw it in the gutter. You don't realize that there's no chance of you hitting a pin because you're doing it yourself.
Wow, man, that right there. Woo! Wow. Wow. Man, that's powerful. That is just so true. But so many times you want to take control of the wheel, right? You think you know what's best. But I love how you talk, it's letting go and letting God, right? And
Right.
It's the hardest thing, like you said, miracles, you're wanting things to change. You're asking God for his guidance, but you're still wanting to hold on to control. You're like, I don't need that. I don't need this help. When he's just simply like, roll the ball down the alley. I got you. But we want to push the guardrails down and fall in the gutter every once in a while and have him pray that he keeps taking us out.
Yeah.
Man, I love that analogy. It's powerful.
But it's so simple. And that's the thing. So again, the one thing that I've learned, that my I guess you could say a skill set that I've picked up, compounding skill sets. That's one thing most people don't talk about either, right? Like,
yeah.
You started off, what was your background, if you don't mind me asking? What did you start off like doing before this?
Oh no, yeah. So before I even got to this, man, I was testing the lab, doing construction. And then from there, I was like, that was my first passion. I was like, man, my first passion, I jumped into personal training. I loved helping people. I love seeing people, better themselves physically. And I was like, man, there's a deeper emotion. Like, right, I want to start to bring people together, connect. And I was like, what better way to do that than starting a podcast?
Right.
This time it was, I can't say I jumped and ran like you did, Jesse. You ran with it. Me, I started a podcast. I jumped on there, figured it out. I wanted it to be perfect. That never came. I made the podcast. Didn't even tell people I had one. Like, you're like, I don't have a podcast. I wouldn't tell anybody, hoping nobody would find it. I was out there making it, hoping nobody would find my podcast. I was like, if somebody was asking, I'm like, I don't have a find it. Then one day I just started going out there and was like, starting small.
Mm-hmm.
And then I just started throwing it out there and just letting the world, figure it out in the interwebs. But what I with yours is, I think many overthink the process. I know we think that we need to have it all figured out. But I love how you get in a truck, you turn the camera on, and you let faith take the wheel, I like to call it. Because I'm like, I hear that, I'm like, man, this man is letting go and letting God. And I think it's so powerful that you do that. But like you said, it's so simple that it's easy, right? It's easy to be like, I have to have it perfectly. It's easy to discredit what we can do. We think about so many times like we don't have and what we need. But it's starting with where you're at. I think about your journey. It's like you're starting where you're at with what you got and doing what you can with what you got. And just seeing this, man. I mean, just to see this beginning part for like, I know where, man, I'm just excited to where the anticipation for myself that I see for what's happening for you. I'm like, oh my, man, I can't wait to see this, man. It's exciting.
And then here's another switch that it's kind of like you start to level up too. So the compounding skills, so being in the medical profession gave me compassion. It gave me something that I've always had, but like the culture in that environment, it literally cultivated a better version of me. And as I transited out of the
Oh,
military and I was doing real estate, that was more fulfilling, believe it or not, than 23 years in the military sometimes, just because those moments were so much more fruitful to where I was helping people do better things. I've always helped people in the military as a physician, a doc, or whatever you want to call. I've always been there as a leaning ear, a confidant, and things of that nature. Putting people back together, that's all easy, believe it or not. That's easier
yeah.
than picking apart a brain in a podcast. Like you give me a broken arm, okay, that's a broken arm. I could fix this. Talking to someone and picking them apart and trying to figure out what makes them tick, man, that's a tough environment. And making sure that the interview goes well. I mean, if there's dead space, if they're a participant in your podcast and they don't have but 2 or 3 words every 3 or 4 minutes, you're dragging conversation, right? So it's definitely something that you learn to navigate through the compounding skills. Well, as a real estate agent, I didn't realize it, but I was already learning social media skills. And we have this one young lady in my office that's
Oh,
phenomenal in social media. And I just kind of looked at it and I was like, my message could be out there a lot more if I hit TikTok, Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, if I hit them all.
yes.
And a buddy of mine came to me. He was like, Jesse, it's like fishing. I looked at him. He was like, how many lines do you throw in the water? I said, when I go, I throw about 3 or 4. He goes, yeah, but what happens if you only take one fishing rod? I said, well, it doesn't work out because you're only catching one fishing rod worth sometimes. He's like, yeah. He goes, it's the same way with social media. If you throw out all those lines and in some form or fashion, break it up, do something different, you'll start to see something. And whenever I tell you, Sam, it's been pretty cool. I'm not this mega, influencer or anything like that, but I have a very small pocket of an audience that is hurting or that needs to hear whatever it is. And those are the people I want to touch. Those are the people that need to hear the things that like your podcast, dude. People need to hear that there's fruitful journeys beyond just being on social media and dancing, you know? So I love the fact that you're
Yeah.
doing what you do. And I support that 1000, because it's not just that you're doing it from a faith base, but you're also doing it because you want to see people succeed. Your heart and the passion that you have to see others lifted up, there's something special about that. And I see it. I just want to know. I want you to know I
I
see it.
appreciate it, man. I appreciate it. Oh, I
Yeah.
appreciate that, brother. Hey, man, I see it too. And I love what you talked about that with social media because you said it's more than just the dancing and the movie. It's really, I think that's the true gift. I feel like that was kind of my heart too. I was like, man, we could put, like you said, as many lines out there. And your heart behind it too, man. You're like, hey, I see people are hurting. I want to help. And I think we tend to not realize the power that we have to help. And social media is just one of the many ways, like you said, you can, who knows, one video in somebody's life. One post you make could change the course of somebody's day. And that's the power we have with connection. But I love how you said about not just another dance video, because I take social media like you do. It's a responsibility. Like I have the opportunity to positively impact somebody's life, or I'm
Yeah.
gonna shoot them another cat video. You know what I mean? So
I mean, if you've
I'm like,
okay, so real talk, right? You got different personas in social media too, right? So on one of my personas, I have JP Sales, and that's my real estate persona. And you click on that, and you see me running out during a snowstorm, jumping in a swimming pool. You know what I mean? So you see the other side of me, which is
yeah,
a little bit more marketing
yeah,
friendly, and it's more in tune with like, hey, I'm just trying to get some views, to try to get some attention, to get you to understand that I'm just an everyday normal guy, and I just want to help people, man.
yeah.
It's that simple. There's no magic behind it. Like whenever I felt that God gave me the grace, the understanding, and the words to articulate, to be able to speak with authority, to have the skill set to actually use words to help other people, bro, I sat back and I was like, hold on, you're telling me that I can speak and people will listen? Because my whole life I talked. I was a talker. It worked. But a lot of times as a kid, what did they tell you? What did they tell you as a kid, bro?
Yeah, be quiet or hush your mouth or wait your turn,
Right.
wait to talk, speak when you're spoken to.
Exactly, right? And then now I'm in an environment where I'm a parent and I have these beautiful children that God's blessed me with. And I have one that's a quiet, very stoic, and whenever he moves with purpose, right? And then I have another one and she's outspoken, very in your face, and she does, what she thinks is right. And it ends up being one of those things where it's the yin and yang in my house. But at the end of the day, like you said, being able to guide some of that thought, being able to use what God's given me to give them blessings beyond measure in some form or fashion. And it's not just financial, it's not just giving up, the toys and things of that nature. It's literally sitting down and having conversations. And it's amazing.
Yes, it is, man. I 100% agree. But I really love that. I love that, because I mean, when you're thinking of impact, it doesn't have to always be money. It doesn't have to be, each person, like you said, is going to have their own gifts. But the fact that you can use your voice, and I think that's the most powerful thing when it comes to media or podcasts. I feel like when COVID came, when they're like each other, I feel like communication almost is shut, And I think in a place where I feel like we need to be more, we're more connected than ever, technology wise. I feel like we're not as connected wise, physically, like conversation, talking wise. How do you feel about that?
So it's funny you brought this up, Sam, because I was talking to someone the other day and I said COVID, the paradigm of COVID and the shift in the societal norms, how things are moving and how people actually talk, right? It distinctly changed from 2020 all the way down to about 2022. And I could feel it because during that time I was in real estate full-fledged running, and I could feel the conversation shifting a little bit. And people call it the market, right? No, it wasn't the market. It was the people. You could feel the dynamic of confidence, right? And whenever COVID sheltered us and we became recluse, there was a lot of broken people, man. I mean, if you had to stay in your house for 30 days at times because you had COVID, then you had to isolate, then you had to get away from people. Your only outside source was what? Social media. Could you imagine if we would have started our podcast back in COVID times? That would have been amazing.
You're right. Yeah.
So
you're right, because you're right. This is the only thing they had.
Yeah. And I kind of follow a couple of people here and there, and I pick up on some of their dynamics and the way they do the 4 quadrant theories, and you know what I'm talking about, life coach stuff. And
yeah, I love it.
And one of the things I definitely see is that COVID broke down some of the systems that were in place for people to be able to communicate. It gained a lot of traction in this, but it broke down the simple handshake. It broke down the simple eye connection, a hug. It broke down so much. And then whenever you lose that human connection and that dynamic, that carried over for years. There's still people, I mean, think if a 5-year-old was going to school during COVID, they're 9 years old right now, maybe even 10.
Oh, dang. I didn't think about that. Yeah.
Whenever they were sitting in that classroom and then they were sent home because they couldn't go to school because they had isolation and they had to learn from a computer monitor, and all they know is, I'm going to sit on the couch, watch TV, and work from this computer monitor. It's the same way adults were doing it, but they had no restrictions as a kid because a kid doesn't know the right from wrong 100%. They're only guided by us, right? So that dynamic really forced a culture shift. And then whenever I looked at it, I was like, man, this is going to change so much. And then now I actually see it. I actually see all these changes. I can see whenever people run out of steam. I can see whenever they don't know what words to use, that they're frustrated, they're pissed off, they can't speak. It's because they were isolated and they were used to being by themselves. So for me, being in real estate and being so extroverted, it's been a godsend to me because I'm able to communicate in those dead spaces. And we go back to compounding skills. God didn't put the skill
Yeah.
I have in, but like it worked perfectly, right? I was able to close the gap immediately because the quiet people felt comfortable because I closed some of that dead space for them, and it worked out perfect. So that business started flourishing, which gave me the leg to stand on for the podcast. And that's how I know the compounding skills that God has been giving me my whole life gave me the opportunity to sit and actually have a conversation with someone like you, man.
Oh, dude, that is awesome, man. Wow. I really love that. I love how you're talking about, man, now you think about everything that happens in your life. Because I was talking to somebody before. I was like, man, we only in life get human experience. If you think about it, you only get one life, one human experience. So to think that something in your life didn't happen for a reason, whether it's good or bad, but to lead to each moment to, the compounding of the skill compounds. Like, wow, it's awesome to see just how it can line up. And it really makes you want to reflect on your own life. Like, man, what is this skill that, things that you maybe thought was people in front of you for, are now your greatest gifts.
And so I did a practice.
But
so
man,
if you go ahead, dude. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Oh, no, I'm sorry. Yeah.
So I did
I'm sorry. I didn't mean to say anything. Yeah.
No, it's okay. So I did a TikTok the other day, and it was, how do you do inventory on yourself? Have you ever truly done inventory on yourself, Sam?
Ooh, I think I have, but it's tough. It
So
a lot of things that I didn't want to bring out.
yeah, so I did an exercise on TikTok, and I said, do me a favor and get a sheet of paper, and I want you to split it down the middle. And I want you on one side to capitalize on every milestone in your head from the age that you can remember. And it doesn't have to be distinct details. It's just, okay, at age 3, I remember that I did this and I like fruit. At age 5, I learned to ride my bike. The milestones that we kind of walk through in life, right? Maybe at
Yeah.
age 6, you hit your first baseball, and that was a huge accomplishment, right? Okay, on the other side of that page, your inventory becomes fun because now you're going to break down those associated memories of hardships, dead things that you don't want to talk about, bad things that have happened in that same exact timeline, actually. And you'll start to notice that God gave you a
Oh.
gift for the purpose of your pain. Down that sheet, you'll start to notice your inventory mirrors at certain areas in your timeline whenever you were probably praying for relief, whenever you were probably praying for the message, whenever you were looking for the out of the turmoil that you were in. And whenever you break down that inventory, you start to see it. But on the bottom of that piece of paper, if you write the word God and put a line over the top of it, and we all know this, right? A house built on sand or a house built on rock, right? Well, if God is your rock, no matter which way you look at your inventory, your foundation is always going to be solid, no matter which way that message goes. If you've had a great life, if you had a horrible life, the foundation is always going to be good. And whenever you do the inventory on paper that way, you start to notice that in your blessings were trials and tribulations that led to another blessing. It really does force you to look at your life differently.
Wow, man, that is beautiful. Man. All right, y'all heard that. So you now need to do that size for yourself, man. Don't put that. Don't do yourself a discredit and not do that work you just said right there. That is amazing. I gotta do that right after this. Like, wow,
It's
that is a good
tough.
one, man.
And the time that I did it, it took me about 2.5 months to really break down the things. Like, whenever you start writing down your life, you start to realize you've had a beautiful life. And you really, I'm talking like, go back to whenever scrambled eggs and ketchup was the jam. Like, go back then. You know what I mean? And then you
Yeah.
start to realize as you got older that things shifted, and maybe those hard moments over on the side of the paper that really crushed you a little bit, the epiphany of maybe it was a marriage on the other side of that. Maybe it was a birth of a child on the other side of that heartache. You see what I'm saying? So,
Man,
like
that is
you said,
awesome. Yeah.
the curtain on the other side of it, there's always something more. You push through it. And man, that's the faith of it all.
Man, I love this. Man, trusting the process, man. Trusting it, believing that there is on the other side. But it's often, I mean,
Yeah.
it's hard, but like you see it when you're in it. I love that you're talking about really going back, because I think many times we say our past is the past, but not realizing the power of our past in the present, right? Because I
Yeah.
love that list is like I went through all challenges, but there was some good there as well. But realizing that I'm on the other side, that strong foundation of where I'm at, man, dude. Powerful
And
exercise in itself. Woo!
and in my book, the first giddy up is talking about finding your faith, whatever that is, your higher power, and giving a lot of that fear, that anxiety, a lot of things that you feel, and releasing some of that to your higher power, whatever that is. And that's your foundation. That's the start. That's the preface of the book. That's the whole jam, right? Anything after that, you'll learn real quick. Like, okay, organization. In order to have a good brain, you got to have a good space. If you get in your car and you have 16 ketchup packets that are smeared all over the seat, you really don't want to get in your car. You want to clean it up first. Well, it's the same thing with your environment around you because it reflects your headspace. And that's like chapter 1, developing the organizational foundation to understand that God's first, you build that block and then organize your outside circumstances. And then it kind of dives into different things. And I have little exercises. But the idea behind everything, Sam, is to become the best version of yourself. It's that simple.
Man, I love that. I love. I can't wait to get this book. By the way, but can't wait this book.
Hey, the goal
I
is
really love
May
you.
to have it published. The goal is May, so we're working. We're working.
Man, I really love that. So, but what does becoming yourself really mean to you? Like when you say that, what does that mean?
So becoming the best version of yourself is kind of like putting together all the broken pieces that you know you're broken with. Everybody has that shame. Everybody knows the story of who you were or maybe who you don't want to be anymore, right? And because of that, you have an unsettling foundation. You have something strong to stand on with God because you're coming from a broken space and you feel something different. Becoming that best version, just start compounding skills. You start putting things in play that you've learned throughout your journey. Well, what happens if, and I talk about this as well, the ripple effect of everything. What happens if you're so abundant with your goodness and your greatness that whenever you speak, things happen, or whenever you move, people want to be in your presence, and that ripple effect just starts washing over people? It doesn't matter how much bad stuff keeps coming because you're pouring out so much good stuff. So, becoming the best version of yourself doesn't necessarily mean becoming a superstar in basketball, doesn't necessarily mean becoming the richest man on earth. It definitely means being where God wants you to be with your message, with his purpose, and helping others. And that could mean doing a podcast. It could mean being a basketball player to influence kids to be the best version of themselves so they can get to that platform. But teaching people when you get to your platform how to use it, that's the part where I think the best versions start to flourish really. LeBron James, if he were to stand on top of his soapbox and do a podcast about God, how many people do you think he would influence?
Oh, hundreds of millions, right? Man,
And
that it's so beautiful.
man, thank you.
Oh, yeah, you got it, man. But I really love how many times when we're thinking about next version of ourselves, I love how you said it's taking those pieces of your past with you. I think many times when we're looking to be better than ourselves, we're thinking when you leave. But like you said, it's that compounding effect. It's realizing that past is a part of my future, but it's a better part. It's not something I need to forget. It's something I need to embrace and realize that it's that ripple effect that's leading me to my journey, like leading me. It's my story. It's part of me, but those didn't happen to me, that they really happened for me. I really love how you embrace that. It's like, it's part of my journey.
Right. And I could speak to this, dealing with, and I alluded to it earlier, the PTSD in my life. It's not just from Iraq. Whenever I was younger, before I joined the Navy, I had a tragic event where I was shot. And then whenever I joined the Navy, I went into a combative situation as a medical asset. My job was to dodge bullets and fix people. Well, fast forward, these aggressive nature events just compounded a real big resilience whenever I had to do things that just weren't like, it just didn't feel good to see certain things that were happening to people. So whenever I'm trying to save people's lives and having that on your head and that sit in your soul and those kind of things just eat at your heart, those things were not something that was comfortable, but it was part of the journey of who I am. And because I have those broken pieces, it's kind of like if you were to put together a big puzzle and at the bottom you're missing one or two pieces and you had them and you're looking around and then you find them and they're kind of bent up just a little bit. But if you put them in place and you smash it down just the right way, it still fits. Well, those broken pieces make the whole picture, and we need them. We need those broken pieces, man. They're fulfilling because those give you a place of true authenticity. Like, it's authentic. And because of that, people can connect to that. And if you have those broken pieces, I encourage anybody that's listening to this to lean into it, understand it, dissect it, maybe do an inventory of it, and watch how it starts to flourish from a different perspective. Because PTSD, once you grab it, you harness it, and you truly turn it around, and you give it a purpose, and then God gives you a voice, there's so much power in that.
Man, that's just that story kind of in war when you got shot, but I realized that wasn't even in war. You got shot before you were in the service.
Yeah, just bad place, bad time, bad Jessie.
Oh, oh no, man, but it's just awesome because you think about, like you said, it's something like that, be like, why this happened to me, but then how it prepares you for the next stage in life. Like, you probably at that time didn't know you were going to be a medic dodging the bullets now, right?
So yeah, no, whenever I joined the Navy originally, I was supposed to be a sonar tech. I was supposed to sit on subs and listen to ding ding, like ding ding, but because I was still healing, they wouldn't allow me to join until I was completely healed. So that moved my job skill from ding ding to a medical asset, a corpsman. And because of that, if you don't believe that God has you in the palm of his hand, guiding some of the craziest life journeys that you have, then you're sadly mistaken. And I can, like I said, I can attest to it because I felt it.
Wow, dude, that is just awesome. I mean, it's just so awesome to witness. I mean, it's just crazy, man. Beautiful story. Oh man, I love that, Jesse. I think your story is just so powerful, and there's so many times I'm like, I just play because this is just so many nuggets of just knowledge that, like, man, that in that storm, in that season of challenges, I can trust the process. That it's hard, like you said, when you're in the fire to see the purpose of it, but knowing that on that other side there's a place. It's the other side of that challenge. I'm gonna of it, that God doesn't just place these obstacles in your way to hinder you, but man, I love to see how your plan and your challenges have unraveled, and makes you really want to look at the challenge you're like, I really want to do that introspection, that evaluation, like you were talking about, to that God has placed you on, right? It's easy to say that, why do bad things happen to me? But now when you see that reason, like, they didn't happen to me, they happened for me, like you were talking about. Like,
Yeah,
man, it's such a powerful just story of resilience. And I mean, just the fact that we're even that our paths were crossing, I'm like just so thankful for it. I'm like, man, this is awesome.
and then whenever I was sitting
But
in a
what'd you
podcast,
say?
what's that? Go ahead. I'm listening, buddy.
Oh no, yeah. No, I was listening to what you said. I want to hear what you were saying. You were saying you were listening to a podcast.
No, I was sitting in and I was preparing for a podcast with one of my guests, and we were talking, and we realized very quickly that she had a lot going on, and she had some stuff that was pretty deep, right? And it was pretty profound whenever she was able to really talk to the idea that time is just something that either you love or you hate. And in seasons of your life, you can love time like there's nobody's business because you love that moment. But there's moments in your life where that time stood still and it broke you. And whenever I saw that with my guest, I absorbed the idea, and that literally, how you have those light bulbs just like, and you're like, oh, there's the message, God, I was praying on. And whenever I talked to
Yeah.
her after the podcast, I said, I just want to let you know, as much as we sat in there and we did therapeutic work with you, something happened inside me and I want to thank you. And in that moment, she was like, I don't know how to tell you this, but I felt like I had to say certain things because you needed to hear them. And I'm like, man, how you get the goosebumps and the, oh, right? I got the
Whoa,
goosebumps.
yeah.
And I was like, I I did
Wow.
need to hear it because it gave me that encouragement for keep going. It's okay. It doesn't have to, like you said, it doesn't have to look perfect. It doesn't even have to sound perfect. As a matter of fact, you aren't perfect. You're gonna cuss, you're gonna do things, you're gonna act a fool, you're gonna get compassionate
Yeah.
about things. But people understand that you're coming from a space and you're a human being. You're broken and you gotta embrace that sometimes, man.
Man, I love that. I love that. I really love how you were talking about when you say yes to that goal, like you said, truck talk with Jessie. I mean, it was a dream. You jumped on it, you went into it. But how, like, you're learning in that situation, how we can there's still, like, it's not this. And that in those times of learning, you're getting that guidance as well. It's just when you say the goal and to the mission, it's a mission now, it's like,
Yeah.
man, it's awesome to see what just stepping out you can learn.
And it's been, I will say this, in my real estate journey, it's been fruitful as well because people who wouldn't have normally connected with me are seeing me from a different perspective because they had an opinion. Because again, PTSD survivor, Jesse, that guy's a little rough, man. I'm gonna be real, like that guy was a little edgy and a little stoic
Yeah.
and very business and transactional. And I know my clients felt protected, but a lot of times it was kind of like I was trying to get an upper hand on deals as opposed to working with the deal inside of it. And now that I move with purpose, intent, and I feel like my purpose literally is to give others another fruitful opportunity to speak their message, do something in my truck, or give them a little bit of advice that maybe I've learned throughout my little 46 years. Because Lord knows I'm not that old. I still got a lot left in the tank and I'm running full speed at it. Right. So because of that, I love giving back that opinion. And it's not opinionated opinion, but it's hey, if I was in your shoes, this is how I would move because what I've experienced has moved me to this position and not in this thought process. Again, going back to becoming the best version of myself, I have to always stand on some good sound like foundation and make sure that I'm not speaking out the side of my neck, if you know what I mean, right? So,
Yeah,
and what does that do for us?
man.
Like as coaches, what do you do lately? What book are you reading?
Yeah, that's true. Makes you really want to like dive in and make sure you're doing
Right.
your work and due diligence.
Right.
Awesome, man. But I really love what would you say to somebody who was in your situation, heard that, maybe had that idea like you had. Maybe he was like, I had the inkling to take that action, but maybe he didn't. Was there any give somebody who maybe heard that same calling like you did? Like, I got my truck, I had a plan, but they stopped.
So I'll say this, and I can only speak for me. At some point, you have to look at yourself in the mirror and you got to talk to yourself. You literally have to talk to yourself. Some people call it self affirmation. Some people talk like, hey, I got to pep myself up. But you literally have to come to Jesus and have a conversation and say, if this is the pathway I'm supposed to be on, then continue to push. And whenever I run out of steam, it's not me, because I'm not driving this bus. So I literally gave it all to God. And I said, hey, the moment you
Yeah.
say that's enough, I'm done. If you say tomorrow, you really don't need to do this, and I feel that it has nothing to do with me being, I don't want to do this anymore, then maybe my message hit the right person at the right time. Maybe my message was that moment and I saved
Wow.
someone's soul. I don't know. I would love to think that that's how impactful it is, but I will say you don't stop because you get tired of it, because whenever you know, it doesn't stop. I don't know how to explain that,
Yes.
but it does not stop. And maybe podcast is not the thing. Maybe it's literally sitting in person with somebody. Maybe it's going to the beach and sitting on a bench and talking to strangers. I don't know what the thing is, but if you're starting a podcast, keep going till you know you can't. And I'm talking about like you can't talk, like you got laryngitis and your voice is gone. Then maybe there's your sign, right? But at the end of the day, I always tell people I have this mentality, and this is the military mentality: proceed until apprehended. Just keep going until someone tells you to stop, and you'll know. Someone will tell you, but it doesn't have to be perfect. It doesn't have to be scripted. It doesn't have to be this big to do. It doesn't have to be a Tony Robbins spectacular, because you're not placating to millions of people. You're placating to the one heart you need to get that message to. And if you act like that every day, then you're always looking for the one heart. And it doesn't stop.
Dang. Oh my gosh, Jesse, bro. Oh, that was beautiful. That is beautiful, man. But I want to let people know it. Where can people get connected with you at? I know we got Trex Talks with Jesse, but where can we all follow you on those platforms? Where are you at?
So Truck Talks with Jesse is on YouTube. That's a channel that has the podcast with short videos on it, and you get a daily short there. TikToks, it's Truck Talks TTWJ, right? Instagram, Truck Talks with Jesse, and then my Facebook is just Jesse Palacios, and then on Twitter, it's actually JP Sells America. And honestly, it started off as, hey, I just want to get something out there that people can bite into. And then if they need to call me, call me. And that's what it started off as. Hey, just call me. I got you. And it turned into, hey, let me just give you a little bit in between. And then now it's turned into every day you can get a message from me. And like I said, I literally have no idea what I'm going to say until I hit the camera button and I just start rolling. And what you see, all I do is put it in a quick editor, only because I want to put my watermark of Truck Talks with Jesse on film, and that's it. Otherwise, the edit is the edit. I might throw some music from TikTok on there and then sell it out and do it again, but it's not any like, all right, I need to course correct some blemishes or I need to change the angle. No, what you get is what you get. It's it. It's raw.
Man, I love that. I love that authenticity. I love the mission. I love everything you're bringing to just the world in general, man. I just can't be more thankful that our paths have crossed. But you guys, so making sure, don't just, Jesse gave us some great actionable strategies. Take that inventory. Do what he said. Take that inventory. Make sure you're following him on all his social platforms. I mean, you heard it there. I'm going to put at the bottom of this. I'm going to put all the links to his Facebook, Instagram, his TikTok. We'll get you that. Make sure you guys are looking at that book, because I know I am. I'm looking out for that book. And making sure you are on his Chuck Talks with Jesse as well, man, because you guys, we're going to be, when that book comes out, I'm going to make sure everybody knows about it, because I'm going to be getting it too. But man, Jesse, I just can't be more thankful for your time.
I appreciate the opportunity, Sam, and I can't wait to have you sit in my truck. I cannot wait, because we're gonna flip the script on this, and I'm gonna get to know you in the capacity in which you just got to know me, and I can't wait for that one.
Dude, I'm looking forward to it, my friend. Hey, you guys. Hey, I'm super thankful for you guys if you were on just for joining us on this episode. So make sure you go hit Jesse up on all his socials. And like the best part is, you're gonna get a piece of Jesse every day. He's going live every day. You guys, gonna give you some of that. So I'm super thankful for you guys for not only being a part of my self-love journey, deciding that each day I can get better.